we talk about constitutional reforms that are coming in to ostensibly fix what already is there. But the constitution as well is what lawyers would say. It's very clear on what needs to happen, especially on electoral laws. And with that, I ask the question, commissioners that we see today in IEBC, would Kenyans be wrong to say that they are there on a brief of someone? And how do we check that out for us to say we trust and believe individuals manning the election? And why do I say that? Because if you just go back to the selection process of individuals who are given the power then to select individuals, to vet them and everything else, they're all seconded from political parties. That goes to speak of individuals who had specific briefs from political parties led by would-be big political players in the country. So how do we check that out for Kenyans to say we trust that commission?
Dennis, you raise a fundamental point, which we raised when they were amending the IEBC Act. If you look at the selection process for commissioners, the bulk of the people who nominate the commissioners are actually representatives of political parties. It makes it very difficult then to separate the commissioners from the process, which is a political process that brought them in office, right? The counter argument that is often made is that you also need, because the commissioners manage a political process, then politicians must be involved in the process of selecting commissioners. And that's, I think, part of what influenced the law reform process, which ended up with the bulk of the selection committee being politicians. Be that as it may, the IEBC commissioners must realize that as members of a Chapter 15 commission, they exercise a public trust. Once they are elected to office, they exercise a public trust, and therefore the manner in which they exercise their functions must give trust in the public that they will do what Article 88 requires them to do. The extent to which the IEBC communicates that is not only a function of the appointment process, but the extent to which individual commissioners internalize the obligation of impartiality and independence. Now, we can create a commission and call it independent in name, which we have done in Article 88, but the extent to which members believe themselves to be independent and impartial is a personal conviction. And that's a question that we continuously must ask ourselves of our commissioners. Do they believe themselves to be beholden to the executive, or do they believe themselves to be what Article 88 says, independent commissioners who have a function to carry out elections which are transparent, they're inclusive, they are the expression of they facilitate the free expression of the will of the voters. The truth of the matter is the average Kenyan today does not believe that the IEBC commissioners can be trusted. Incidentally, Afrobarometer did a study last year, and it found that the institution that Africans, including Kenyans, trust the most is the military, followed by the church. Now, the reality is the military will not conduct elections, neither will the church. So we must work with the institution that we have. The best we can do at the moment, because we are not crafting our own IEBC, is to hold IEBC accountable to what the Constitution and electoral laws say.